EMBL in October 2011 to start my PhD in the group of Stefano D'Arensis in the developmental biology unit. And in the group of Stefano, I developed a method to control cell behavior with light. I used that method to study how embryos develop their final shape, how they fold to develop their final shape.
You started with some background of any of these, or from the university, or it was a completely new type of research?
Yeah, not at all. Actually, for my master's thesis, I studied how bacteria divide, but I was always interested in how a cell grows into an organism. So that was really fascinating for me. And so back then, so this was 2011 when I started my PhD. Optogenetics was really used mainly in neuroscience to control the activity of neurons, but no one really had done it to control cell behavior in developing organisms. So. We were actually one of the first to pioneer this technique in living embryos, and when we published that, this was in 2015. Then researchers from all over the world started to ask us for collaborations, and now I'm happy to see that a lot of groups around the world are using the tools that I developed to study, to ask their questions and answer their biological questions. So.
The question is, I mean, did you enjoy the system? You think this is a pretty, widely used genetic system. Did you like working with insects?
Yeah, very much. I mean, it was, they're easy to grow. They don't take too much time to reproduce, which was good. I was, seeing colleagues working with mice that, were just having to wait months for a cross to give progeny. So that was really fun, but I didn't know anything at the beginning. So I was, I'm really grateful to our technician who was there, Eva, and also the senior PhD students that really, taught me a lot about Drosophila genetics, and also Stefano. He's really passionate about Drosophila genetics, so he was, telling me everything about that. But I really enjoyed working with Drosophila. I think it's a very powerful model organisms.
How was your impact with the EMBL? I mean, you were coming from an education in Italy. I was certainly, I was a student as well at the EMBL, and I remember I have this very vivid memory of an entirely different place, somehow a playground for science with a lot of new things to explore, new people to know. What was your feeling when you came here?
It just opened a new world for me, like, so international, so many smart people around, and also so many opportunities to do great science. Like you could think about an experiment, and you had the tools to do it. So that was really a big plus. And coming from Italy, where this is not always possible, that was really important for me. Also having access to a lot of seminars, conferences. Every day something is going on at EMBL, so it's. You cannot miss out on anything. That's great, I think.
So you have been then following a path that is quite unusual, although I find it very interesting. So you transitioned to science communication and science dissemination. And so, first of all, I wanted to ask you, what did you do then? So what was, after the EMBL, your next assignment? And then maybe we talk about it, the reason behind that decision, which again is, let's say, peculiar in a scientific career.
I have to say I always liked to write. In high school, my dream was to become a journalist, and then I fell in love with biology, so I went on to study biology and then do a PhD in biology. But actually it was at EMBL where I realized that I could combine my passions for writing and science and become a science writer. So after graduating from EMBL in 2016, I applied to science journalism programs. I got into the program, the graduate program at MIT in Boston, and I moved there to do a one-year graduate program in science writing.
I remember that the EMBL was very active with science and society. The PhD students were organizing PhD symposia that were, partly science and partly, engagement with the community or understanding of topics on a not strictly scientific level. So did these activities at the EMBL had a part in your decision? Was that one of the spark that let you think that you could go to such a career?
Yeah, well, many things. For sure, the PhD symposium. I was one of I was in the team of the symposium that my year organized. I was also part of the distinguished lecture committee. So just people that were coming here and. Sometimes giving also talks that were going beyond science, more at the interface with science and society. So that was great. Also the science and society talks that were happening at EMBL. But I think really the spark was like seeing the great job that the communication office at EMBL was doing at the time. So I asked them to work with them basically when I realized that could be an option. And actually my first assignment was a first-person account of my PhD project. So that was my first story that was published in EMBL, etc. And then I continued working with them on other stories, talking to the editors and writers in the communication office. And that was really, the moment where I said, okay, I want to do that as a job.
Yeah, that is so impressive, because usually, scientists have, or at least they are taught to have, quite an hard time in explaining what they do in simple terms and conveying, the excitement. So for you, it was, natural to think in those terms. I mean, what were the challenges in describing your project outside?
Yeah, I mean, my project was really basic research, using a lot of fancy, if you want, tools to study, something that, probably the public would not relate immediately. But, I just were thinking of like analogies. For example, I was controlling cell behavior with light, so I was explaining this to my mom, like, I'm building a remote controller for cells to control their behavior. These sort of things just helped me to explain my science to the public, or to people that I knew that were not scientists. And then, I don't know, I just always had this, I was willing to make science simple for people, because I think that we should really try to democratize a bit scientific ideas. They don't have to stay in academia only. So I was trying to find ways to explain things to the public, to people, to non-experts. And that's not always possible when you write a paper, but I found when I was writing the introduction of my thesis, for example, I had a bit more freedom to try to explain what morphogenesis is and how embryos fold origami style to form an organism, an adult organism.
But then I understand that then when you went to the US and you started your formal training in writing, then you tackled scientific stories with a different angle. There was something about communicating true story and the whole issue of truth versus fake news. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so when I was at the MIT, I wanted to focus more on the intersection of science and society. So for my thesis for the graduate program in science writing, I examined how some shoddy media reports were helping a bug to kill olive trees in the south of Italy, actually from Apulia, the region where I'm from. So there is an insect that is spreading a bug, a bacterium that is killing olive trees. It kills olive trees. So what happened in the south of Apulia, where this bug is spreading, the government put in place measures to stop the spread of the disease. And as I mentioned, there were some shoddy media reports that were amplified by public figures that made really the public react badly to these measures, and so people just were against these measures. The government of the region could not really put these measures in place, and now the disease is spread and in a large part of Apulia, and has killed millions of olive trees. So I went to Apulia for my thesis. I was talking to scientists, to conspiracy theorists, to government officials, to farmers also that were losing their olive trees, and trying to put everything together, and also trying to combine hard analysis of the facts with some good writing, elegant writing, try to draw in people to make them understand.
So personally, I mean, I am very interested in the story, because I should go and read your piece, because I had a lot of confusion back then, being Italian as well, on that business, and certainly clarity and understanding, and also translation of the scientific facts, which most of the times are very hard facts to digest. I think is crucial.
I think the problem there was really that these media reports were saying that this disease, the spread of this disease, was somehow had been introduced. The disease had been introduced by biotech companies, multinational businesses that wanted to kill all the olive trees and replace them with genetically modified crops. That reminded me, again, when we had the COVID pandemic, of all these conspiracy theories that were going around. This was before the pandemic, actually, but then, when we had the same, actually, at a much bigger scale with the pandemic. So I think that was really crucial, try to debunk these theories and show that, the bug just arrived with very unfortunate circumstances from probably plants that were imported from California, where the bacterium is actually endemic.
So, but that is a big challenge. I mean, because then it's very difficult to come against, fake news and this feeling that I guess is fueled by the fact that when you don't have knowledge, it's very easy to say, okay, that's the science is the enemy, or technology is the enemy. So how do we, overpower this level of fake news and this feeling of unease with technology and science?
That's a very difficult question to answer, and I don't have a solution for that. I think the disconnect between the public and scientists, over themes like vaccines or global warming, has been there for a long time. But now, with social media, and more recently, some politicians just made the problem worse. I think what I try to do is just, to explain things to people, but also to mention concepts such as risk, uncertainties, because these are parts of science, of scientific research. So I think the public should be familiar with that. I just see sometimes headlines like new molecule that cures cancer. That's not going to happen, right? There are so many uncertainties, so many challenges. May work for one type of cancer, not for all cancers. So that's important to put everything in context. And I think probably some sort of solution for that would be just try to support good science journalism, institutions, philanthropists, but also like all of us could just try to support journalists that do a good job. by subscribing to publications that really take care that science and scientific research is communicated in a good and accurate way.
Okay, have you been writing about the pandemic? Because of course the pandemic brought a lot of that into the limelight. I mean, you had all the question of the origin of the virus, fake news related to that, or uncertainty simply because we don't really fully know what happened at the beginning, and all the issue with vaccination, of course. Did you write about this issue? Are you currently engaged into disseminating and communicating about that?
Yes, sometimes I wrote a lot about tests. Really at the beginning, when we had basically only PCR tests, I was writing about these new tests. At the time, they were antigen tests that now are super useful, right? We take one in the morning and we see if we can go to work or maybe just stay at home. So I was writing a lot about that. There was also a bit of confusion about these tests and how they compare to, for example, antibodies tests. So I was writing about that, and recently I was actually writing about a myth that was spread during the early phases of the pandemic, maybe not a lot of people know about, but so that the myth was that low and middle income countries were hit less by the pandemic. So there was a study, actually a series of studies that have been published recently that showed that actually those countries actually bore the brunt of the pandemic. So that was a myth that was going on at the beginning of the pandemic, just saying, okay, low and middle income countries are sort of being spared by the virus, so they don't really need vaccines, and that just exacerbated a lot the vaccine inequality. And if I remember correctly, only 18% of people in low and middle income countries had at least one dose of a COVID vaccine, compared to 80% in higher income countries. So that's really something that I think it's really important to tell people now. So we need vaccines for all, not just for higher income countries.
Another question that I had related to maybe back to the communication of news and having people really profit for understanding of science relates to the fact that you have been active in Europe and then in the US. And I wanted to hear from you whether you think there are differences in literacy that make it a little bit different in the population to understand the scientific facts. Because we have this myth that, especially in Southern Europe, that let's say the Anglo-Saxon countries have more scientific literacy, and you have been exposed to both environments. So can you comment a little bit about that? Are there really differences, or are there different recipes to actually, better the understanding of people of these things?
I think probably Anglo-Saxon countries have very good science communicators and science journalists. So if you think science, Nature, New Scientist, The Atlantic, all these places that do excellent science journalism, they are in English. They publish in English. Scientific American, they publish in English, and their audience are English-speaking people. So I feel, for example, in Italy we don't have as good outlets for science. We have some good ones, but also probably they're not so popular, not so common. You would not go to the shop and buy a Scientific American, the Italian edition of Scientific American. I don't know. I just feel that they have, a long tradition of science communication, longer tradition of science communication that we have in Southern Europe, and probably that's also a bit part of the problem.
I was wondering, you have done lots of long reads. Are you trying your ends also with a book, for instance, which would be the next step, I guess?
No, I don't think I will ever be able to write a book. I tend to procrastinate a lot, so a book would be really too much for me. I would have to write everything, you know, in the last month. For now, it's not something that I aim to tackle, but yeah, you never know.
Giorgia, it's been really a pleasure to talk to you, and I wish you all the luck for the future. I hope that this John Kendrew Award will be a good wish and a conduit to even better science communication.
So I was very happy to receive the John Kendrew Award, because I think it's a signal that not only science communication is valued and appreciated, but also a signal that PhD graduates can have an impact on society, science and society, also if they don't work, no longer work in academia. And a lot of people now don't stay in academia, and I know, you know, firsthand that can cause some anxiety at the end of the PhD. So I'm really grateful, you know, for the committee for awarding me the John Kendrew Award, because that sends a message that the PhD graduates are, you know, valued even if they are no longer at the bench.